what I was saying was, I was a condominium manager in a previous life, managed 600 plus units. So I get a lot of questions and phone calls from people that know I was a condo manager asking for help with their statuses. So I figured I would teach this. Big disclaimer is, you are not a lawyer. It is good to know a status and know how to break it apart, but definitely always send the status to the lawyer as well. Does everyone potentially have a copy of a status certificate that they can pull out?
Yeah.
I was gonna print them, but there's so many. Okay, if you have one, or if your neighbor has one, I would have one in front of you just so you can pull up your own situations, even if it's an old one, just pull it up. I have some excerpts from declarations and things like that, but it's better if you have one in front of you or if you look at your neighbors. Okay, so what we're gonna cover is the declaration, the bylaws and rules, the Schedule C, which is a standard unit definition, which is what Preet was kind of just asking about, the reserve fund study, a budget, indemnity agreements, the certificate summary, and some fun facts to help that kind of from being in the industry that will help you guys bring value. And then I asked you guys what else you'd like to know to make this successful for you. Right? Oh, fun condo facts. So there are two main types of condos. Do you guys know about the two main types of condos? Okay, so we've got a common elements condo, we've got a standard condo. So do you know the difference? So what's a common elements condo? Can someone tell me?
It deals with roadways, lawn, snow removal, garbage pickup.
Perfect. Yes, so they're attached by a common roadway, by a park, by common areas. So the actual parcel of land and the home itself is owned by the unit owner. Does that make sense? So typically condo fees are lower because they're just covering garbage collection, snow removal, things like that. They're not actually covering anything to do with the house itself. Now, what's interesting about common elements condos is there's still a declaration, there's still bylaws. You could potentially have rules about what your window coverings could be, and you know, your grass, be making sure it's cut and things like that. So they're still governed under rules, okay? The condo corporation, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, has 10 days to provide you with the status certificate once payment is received. They must charge no more than $100 to provide the certificate. So that's actually governed. Now, I am seeing now that there are expedited services. Melissa, I'm sure you see a lot of that. For $150, you can get an expedited status certificate. That is new. When I did condos, it was $100. That's governed. You can't charge any more than that. And the 10 days to provide it has always been through and through what they're allowed. Okay, so to order a status certificate, you can ask the listing agent if they have it. So many people I find order the status and then realize the listing agent already had it. I don't know if you guys ever gone into that, but it's hilarious. 2, call the property management company and order it over the phone. And 3, go to the property management company's website. A lot of them now with technology these days, you can just order the status online. You can pull up the condo corporation and pay with a credit card. It's fantastic.
Can I just add a note?
Yeah.
If you ask the listing agent if they have coffee. I have a coffee. Ask them when they ordered it.
100%.
Because it's only good for
30 days. Yeah, so it's great for information, but when it gets to the lawyers and gets to closing, it's gonna need to be more up to date.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So in purchasing a condo, we just actually recently ran into this problem with an agent that put in actual dates when they put in actual dates when they were doing an offer for a condo. So they said the condo management company will provide the condo by blank date, and then we have till blank date to review it. There's so many, I don't know what that was. Okay. There's so many variables, guys, when you are reviewing a status, when you're ordering a status, you can't put pressure on a condominium corporation or the property management company to give you the status in 5 days. You can't, you don't want to put that pressure under yourself for your client. You don't want to have to do an amendment, follow the rules. Okay, so this, have you guys seen this one? Who's seen this? Yes. Have any of you put actual dates in and regretted it?
No.
Perfect, okay. So another disclaimer, you are not a replacement for a lawyer, and make sure you're sending condo documents to an experienced real estate lawyer, not a family lawyer. We've seen that a lot, and that's backfired on a lot. Yeah. Anyone have any questions about that condition? That's good. So what's in the status certificate? Can you guys tell me without probably looking, kinds of things you see in the status certificate that you know of? Bylaws and rules? Yeah.
Statements, yeah.
Special assessments.
Yeah, awesome.
Insurance.
Yeah. Good. You guys got all the ones around there. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the declaration, rules, and bylaws. So how many of you have actually opened it up and read the rules? Like full on read all the rules? Beautiful. So I'm gonna show you something really interesting. So one of the biggest ones we run into is pet rules. And not just pets or no pets, it's many condominium corporations will have rules on the number of pets, the size of pet, and the breed of pet. Did you guys know that they actually discriminate against breeds of dogs?
Really?
And I give it a disclaimer.
Yeah,
Okay, so. They're gonna be in there and have rules. And a lot of it can jeopardize you being able to get that property. What you wanna keep in mind though, is there are human rights violations in a lot of these.
Yeah.
Make sure you talk to the lawyer.
Yeah.
We've had several of our clients go through it where these rules are in place. And they just go, well, it violates my human rights, and the condo corp actually has to update. Or change the pet rules. So it's not always a hard and fast rule on some of the stuff that's on there. So talk to the lawyer because some of it violates human rights,
Yeah.
especially the right to have a pet.
100%.
So that one gets challenged all the time, and that's where you see your client will say, well, I just saw a dog in this condo, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's still in the rules, it's still a bylaw, can still affect you, and sometimes you can push back and have a conversation.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important to read the pet rules as the agent, so you can call the lawyer and have the conversation versus on closing. The lawyer says, or right before closing, or just during the transaction, the lawyer has to make the call to the client and say, by the way, do you have a German Shepherd? Do you have a pit bull? Do you have a Rottweiler? We wanna get on top of those fires. So it's so important to read these rules.
So hypothetically, say somebody did have a German Shepherd and that was on the list of dogs or dogs that were not
Yep.
allowed. Now, in this instance, would you talk to the lawyer and say, hey, here's the property manager's number, contact them, and then they would take it kind of at a higher level,
No.
or is it just?
I've called the property manager and said, I see this rule is in here, is it actually being enforced? What's the board of directors saying? A lot of times they're like, no, it's a rule in there, but oftentimes with condos is they don't want to amend the declaration unless there's a bunch of amendments. Because it costs money, so they'll typically wait a year, have all of the amendments brought into one, and then they'll put them through. So typically they'll say, no, we're gonna get rid of it in the next amendment, but it's definitely a conversation that you need to have. The lawyers won't typically, and I'll be correct me wrong, they're not gonna call the property manager for it. And you don't wanna run out that bill with your clients if you can have that call. Yeah.
How enforceable are the rules?
I've had to make a dog lose 10 pounds before. I swear in my life, I've had to make a dog lose 10 pounds. Yeah, because it was over the weight limit. We've had animals that were nuisances, because a lot of them have nuisance. We've had to have a dog almost removed within 14 days. Yeah, because it was a nuisance. So they can, like I said, you can fight them. You don't want to have to fight them, but yeah, no, I've seen some pretty nasty stuff.
I had to have a trying to park the dog.
Yeah.
Classified as
Oh
nuisance.
my God.
I've literally had to make a bulldog lose 10 pounds before. It was insane. Yeah, and we had to have the dog like weighed and everything. It also depends on the board of directors and how sticky they are and can be, and how much of a nuisance it is. If it's a dog that's overweight that isn't causing any problems, you're fine. But just pay attention to your pet rules. Another one is window covering rules.
So before you move on,
Yeah.
Kristen, and on the pet stuff, it could actually violate, so because it's in a rule, let's say you get a dog and it's a yappy dog. And now you're ruining quiet enjoyment for that person and they decide to take you to court. Well, they're gonna win because it's in the rules.
Yeah.
So the rules say.
You
no
literally have to go to your dog.
dogs. Now your dog's barking, it's ruining my quiet enjoyment, and I can actually have your dog removed from the property.
And we've had to remove those.
It can be
Yeah.
court, yeah, it can be court enforced.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy. So the next one is window covering rules. This one, as a condo manager, we run into, oh my gosh, every single day is someone buys a condo and doesn't read that they can only have white or neutral window covering. So their daughter puts pink. And you can feel so bad, like sending a letter saying, please have your daughter remove her pink curtains from the bedroom. You gotta be really careful because a lot of condos have this rule that window coverings have to be white or neutral.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
On that? Put in a white curtain between the window and the pink curtain.
That's what yes, so always put white in front. Interesting. The next one is boat and recreational vehicle parking rules. So are you guys aware that a lot of condos don't allow you to store your boat there or a recreational vehicle of any sort? Another one that I've run into a few times that just caused huge problems is marked in commercial vehicles. If your client works for Danmar Plumbing, some condos will say they can't park their work van on the property. So you really, really, really gotta read these things. This is why you don't want these things, guys, coming up when they move in. And he's parking his commercial van, his work van or work truck that's marked in the condo parking and you get a phone call or they get a phone call and they've just moved in. Window air conditioners, satellite dishes and fencing. That's probably the most common one that we run into. Visitor parking rules. So a lot of condos, in order to have a visitor park there, they have to call a number and register the vehicle for every night or it will get ticketed or towed. Crazy. The next thing to consider, which we're gonna go over, is a standard unit definition. This is the most unlooked at document that is probably the most important that Preet was kind of mentioning earlier. The next one is smoking regulations. Can people smoke, when you're buying a condo, you wanna know, can people smoke in their units? Can people smoke on their balconies? Some condos, you can't smoke anywhere on the property. The one I just looked at, I think it was Benton, I think it was Autumn, so I was pulling up some, that they can smoke in their units. So you really, really gotta be careful. The last thing you want is your client calling you 2 weeks in saying my neighbor chain smokes in their condo unit. And I don't wanna live there.
There's also different rules for jazz cabbage.
Oh,
That was my question.
Oh, marijuana.
It's a baggie.
Oh,
Jazz cabbage.
Oh.
That is so it's from the 30s. Have you been watching?
Have you heard? Come on, buddy. That's so funny. It felt like Jamaican. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yes,
That's so funny. So there are cannabis rules as well. So make sure you're looking at those things as well. So those are some big ones, just from my experience with condos, those are the biggest issues that came up. We have some really good agents that would actually call me all the time when their client was about to firm up, asking these kinds of questions. Can you smoke in the units? What's visitor parking situation looks like? Marked vehicles? Really digging deep into it to make sure, okay? So these are just some ones that I want you to keep an eye on when you're looking through. So this is an example which I pulled from one of our statuses. I actually think it was Autumn, I think it was that Benton one. Despite the foregoing, so this one actually cuts out pit bulls, Rottweilers, Dobermans, Akitas, or any sort of guard dog, and this crossbreeds as well. I don't know how they figure this out, but that they determine from time to time to not be allowed. If the dog seems aggressive or threatening or to be acting aggressively, any sort of threatening manner is allowed in this condominium. It is not allowed on the condominium property. Crazy. So then you look at the bottom there. Regardless of the foregoing, the dog is entitled to order the board is entitled to order the permanent removal of any dog from the condo property simply because the board does not want such dog on the condo property. Upon such order being given, the dog in question must be permanently removed from the condo property within 14 days from the date of such order is delivered.
Just like a little 5-pound dog that tried to take my ankle off last night.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So read these things, guys, slow down and read it, because the lawyer does not know what kind of dog your client has, okay? Any questions about that, about rules?
When the lawyers went through that, they're communicating, like saying, hey,
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
No, depends on the lawyer, and not often, no, they don't go sticky into that stuff, they assume that your client has read through it.
But this is the realtor piece of you understanding your clients
Yeah.
and then understanding what are the things, that's why we're doing this, what are the things you need to be cognizant of for your
Yeah.
clients.
yeah,
So when you're in the buyer appointment, you know they've got this big dog, because you met the dog. Might wanna make a note, hey, make sure you ask your lawyer about this, make sure you ask. your lawyer.
Lawyers are so chill, they're just like, green light, go ahead.
Yeah, it's either a yes or no.
Yeah.
Like, these are the red flags that we see, and it's typically with the reserve fund or with the budget.
Yeah.
They don't typically dive deep into, well, do your clients want satellite? Do your clients need a fence for their dog? Because they don't allow fences here, right? So that's why it's so important for us to be reading this. Any more questions about rules? Different rules. Okay. Awesome. Okay, the next thing is a Schedule C. So have you guys ever been asked from a client, I know I've been asked this, is, well, what's included? What do I pay for? What's mine when they buy the condo? This is where you can go. It can get a little bit, it's a little bit like lawyer talk, like it can get a little bit confusing. So if you want to break it down, you can definitely call me or Andre or even Mike, I'm sure has looked at a couple of these. So you have to refer to the Schedule C, the standard unit definition. So this is what's submitted to the insurance companies if there's damage, to know who's paying for what. So I refer to this to tell my clients what they're actually responsible for. So this document is crucial in understanding what the unit of responsibility and what belongs to the condo. It is also vital during insurance claims to know whose insurer is paying for what items. So if we have a leak on the 12th floor and it goes all the way down. Who covers what? Whose insurance covers what, right? Or what are the unit owners responsible for when certain things are repaired by the condo? So a lot of people don't realize. So, okay, I'll also use an example. So we had a condo building, we had like 10 floors that were all damaged from water. And none of the unit owners had any idea what they're like, oh, the condo's gonna pay for all of it because it's their fault, because it's happened. No, that's not how it works. The condo is only responsible for the unfinished surface of the unit drywall. And it was the client's responsibility to call their insurance, or the unit owner's responsibility to call their insurance company to have everything painted. It was a condo's responsibility to cover up to the subfloor, but it was a unit owner's responsibility to actually call their insurance company to replace the laminate. So it's really, you gotta be really, really careful about what's covered and what's not covered. So this is an example of a Schedule C standard unit definition. So your client typically will go over this with the lawyer and then it gets submitted to their insurance company to make sure that they have the appropriate coverage. So this is extremely important. So this one here, I think I took this from, I don't know, one of Heather's, I think it was a condo townhouse. The unfinished upper surface and plane of the concrete slab in the basement and the unfinished upper surface of the concrete slab in the garage and the full cellar. I'm not gonna read all this, but the one that I thought was interesting on this one, I don't know if I can. The unfinished upper surface of the wooden subfloor. So they'll replace the subfloor, but it's your responsibility as a unit owner, and any sort of damage, your insurance company or you have to cover the flooring. It doesn't matter, and that was hard, that was a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around. Well, it's their fault, it leaked, it doesn't matter. They're only covering because you're responsible for that portion of the unit.
Do insurance companies have special condo packages, policies to
Yep.
handle this kind of stuff?
Yeah, and they will request this directly from you when you're setting insurance, yeah. And typically I find the lawyers deal with that too, they can work with the insurance company and send this over. This one, I think it was this one, talks about the attic. So the unit owner was only responsible up into the wood beams, I think, under the attic, so if there's any, tornado or anything like that, the condo management or the condo corporation covers everything from roof in, which is super exciting, well, it's not exciting. Such a gnarly, I guess I'm excited to say, but yeah, so really making sure, and this will tell you if they're responsible for the windows and doors, because the biggest one we see is the front door mine? Can I replace the front door? This will tell you if they can or not. Okay, does anyone have questions about this? Great, does that answer kind of your question with that? So always go to the standard unit definition. Okay, cool. Something, I'm gonna say it later, but something I wanna add, and you gotta write this down because this is a huge value to your client, or just remember it. There are specific condo insurance policies that will actually cover special assessment insurance. Will cover your clients for a special assessment. Oh, no one knows this. I know this because I was in the industry, and that's why I want people to come, because what a value to your client that 5 years from now, after they buy their condo, they get special assessed, but you inform them that there's insurance available for special assessments. So I've special assessed multiple condos, and I have that one unit owner that's like, I don't care, I have insurance, I'm good. I have insurance up to blank. So tell your clients, they will thank you for that information.
Is it most insurance
No.
companies? Do you
I
know?
don't accept, that was years ago, so I don't know which ones, but it is still available, I do know that. I think,
Can it be added on?
yeah, it's like an add-on, I think I saw TV has it, but definitely tell them to, I just tell my clients to go do their homework and go make calls. Special assessment insurance is huge and they should pay for it, especially in an older building. Especially if I'm looking at the reserve fund study and see that in 3 years from now, they're gonna add huge money to the reserve fund. Are they gonna be ready? Like, we don't know, let's get some special assessment
Do you know
insurance.
if it's a big premium?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't wanna say, but I would definitely have your clients do digging. Every client that I know that, like, my clients that have bought condos get special assessment. Cause you just never know. So
So we can-
huge tidbit.
Can we add it on after they've already moved in?
I don't
So
think so, no.
you would have to wait.
You have to get it
No, like,
when you renew, I guess.
when at renewal day.
Yeah. But I'm sure at that point, they'll wanna see the status documents to make sure that there's no impending
Right.
special assessments coming up, so you better just do it right off the bat. So if you want, in your time, call insurance companies and see if they'll work with you, or if they have rates or anything that they can give us. That involves special assessment insurance, but I've gotten calls from clients years later that are like, oh my gosh, we just got special assessed, but we had that insurance and it was all covered.
Would there be deductible for these special assessments?
I don't know if it's been about 7-8 years, so. Yeah, but I did look it up and I did see some online that they're still providing that out. Yeah. So talking about the reserve fund, so how many of you have actually looked at the reserve fund and really understood? So some reserve funds, a lot of them actually will have not just they'll have actually what is being replaced. You can actually request that as well, the management company, to give you a full reserve fund study that will tell you what exactly those repairs and replacements are. See, this just says the year, the contribution, the percentage increase. But you don't see what exactly is being replaced. But so you can actually ask for a more in-depth one, a more detailed one that will tell you, and some of them do provide them. You'll see like they're redoing the whole roof or they're redoing the exterior. So you can always request that. It's gonna take more time, but if it's an older building, you really want to see what's going on.
Should be an engineering report.
100%. So the actual reserve fund study, you can actually request as well.
Lawyers don't get that.
They get this. And there's supplemental like documents with this, but no, they don't, you don't typically get the detailed report.
They might ask
We'll give it to you.
you to.
Good conduct
ask-
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the lawyer might come back to you
And say, ask
agent
for
and
this.
say, hey, can you ask for that?
Cause I mean, look at this
research
one,
study?
the percent increase in recommended annual contribution goes up 12% in 2025. Well, what are they doing? What are they replacing? I wanna know. I don't wanna be able to tell my clients. Like, this is awesome. I know like the exterior looks kind of shitty, but like. Sorry, but it looks kind of shitty, but they're actually gonna replace it in a couple of years. And is it on schedule? I asked the property manager, is that actually gonna happen? Cause they don't have to do it, it's recommended, right? So this is really important if your client is on a budget too with their condo fees. Hey, it looks like you're gonna get a massive jump coming up in the next couple of years, or if they wanna resell it as an investment. Are the fees gonna go up? Potentially, yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but potentially your fees are gonna go up a lot. But we can resell it in a couple of years saying, yes, the reserve fund increase is going up, the reserve fund contribution is going up, but you're gonna get a brand new thing, a brand new roof, which is gonna add to the value.
Is that what those numbers are for? The 3%?
Yeah, that's the increase, the recommended increase to the reserve fund. Yeah,
Per year.
per year,
That's an old building,
this property.
because it's going up
This is
24,
that
25, 26, 27, and 28.
So they're doing some major stuff, as per the engineers. Yeah, so either the condo fee, so typically the condo fees for an increase like that are gonna go up. They don't typically have enough profit coming in already as a condo. I mean, they could offset it with certain things, which we see condos do in their budget. Which is another thing you're gonna have to look at, is what does their budget look like? If I see a 12% increase coming up into the reserve fund, but they're already just scraping by. There's gonna be a special session. Yeah, and that's something to talk to the board about. So does anyone, I know this is a lot, and here's another tidbit which you can talk about. In order to be covered by the reserve fund, a major repair or replacement has to be same for same. So if they're replacing the asphalt driveway, but they want to replace it with concrete in 2 years, the reserve fund will only cover up to the cost of the asphalt. Everything else comes out of the operating account, which means condo fees are gonna have to cover that, and they have to be ready for that. So that's typically where we see a lot of special assessments where they want to upgrade on something, upgrade the garage door, upgrade the lobby, right? Technically, if the lobby's got carpet, you gotta replace it with carpet. If they want to do tile and all these fancy things, or even fancier elevators or whatever it is, it's gotta come out of the operating account,
Right, so then the differential to turn into a special assessment.
100%. And that's typically where we see it, because a lot of people don't know this, but property managers didn't have to be licensed up until about 3 or 4 years ago. I was a property manager and had, honestly, I've not any experience. Like, they just throw you into it. So now we're starting to run into issues where condo managers weren't trained properly and they weren't licensed, so they didn't know how to budget for these things coming up. So they just didn't prepare the condo buildings well enough. So we see this a lot in new construction as well, where they just want to sell units, so the fees are super, super, super low, and then they realize about 2 years in, oh, shit, we didn't prepare for any of this, and then the fees go way up. Anyone have any questions about reserve funds? I know that was really quick. Reserve funds are done, studies are done every 5 years legally, and they have to be done by an engineer. Yeah, and then typically you can get a more detailed report.
Is there like a certain number where it's like above that percentage, then you should look into it further, like you should, or you expect something maybe?
I think, yeah, I don't
Can I?
think anything over 1, yeah.
I would say in this case, because it's all been 0.5%, all of a sudden it's jumping.
The 3 and 12 and 9,
Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
What
It could be
happened,
just because they planned it in the reserve fund to do everything because they had money, you gotta dig deeper into it.
how old
Yeah.
is the building? When, and I would ask for the reserve fund study on this one, I wanna see the whole study.
To see what they're replacing. It helps
Yeah.
with value with resale, right?
Yeah, and pricing. yes.
Yeah.
Anything that jumps, all of a sudden you're jumping.
Yeah.
Then that
There's
just puts
gonna
me
be
a
jump.
flag.
Especially in older buildings, but
And
It's
it
good to
happened
know
to
what.
me in Wealth this year. But we caught it and we budgeted for it, and my clients were fine. So it's just one of those off things.
being able to provide them that value of, hey, I checked into this and this is what's going on versus, oh, let the lawyer look at it. Okay, because the lawyer doesn't know their budget. The lawyer doesn't know what they've got coming up. Condo budget. So fun fact. A reserve fund, space there, bank account cannot have more than $100,000 in it. Anything over $100,000 must be invested, so property managers will often put anything over $100,000 into short-term GICs. Or they'll look at the reserve fund study and see, okay, how much money are we gonna need? Where do I have to put this? So property managers are also working with banks as well to invest money and to have interest income as well. And a lot of people don't know that. There is only allowed to be $100,000 on a dollar more in a reserve fund bank account. So just an interesting fact. I don't know how to do this. And Andre left me. We were gonna go over a budget. But I don't know how to, does anyone know how to do that? I go to a budget on here?
What's
We go
your
with Andre. I
Where
don't
is the
know.
budget?
We might have to do it at the end and I'll make Andre come back. I have no idea where it is.
I can share one with
Did you have one?
It's on here. I just don't know how.
It's on your slides, you mean?
No, it's on like a separate document. I just don't know where Andre put it.
Is it on the bottom?
Sorry, guys. Oh. Can everyone see this? Can someone unmute online? Let me know if you can see this. Probably not.
No.
No, okay, one sec. Oh, I'm the last person to be doing this right now.
Open up your Zoom and then like share screen. No,
No,
your little
table.
picture.
Here?
Yeah, make it big.
Sorry, guys. How do I make it big?
Close that one soon.
Does anyone grab the
Can someone come help me? Sorry, guys, one sec.
I'm not gonna be the one to help, so.
Share.
How do I make this bigger?
Here, pass it. I might be able.
You gotta come. Sorry, guys, I don't know how to do this. I don't know either. Oh, the camera's following me.
Oh, this isn't really new.
It's hard.
What? Yeah.
Okay, well, she's bringing that out. What ahas have you guys gotten so far about condos? What didn't you know?
They know a lot of it, actually.
Insurance.
Yeah?
Insurance part,
Okay,
especially, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I didn't know either.
good.
But other than that,
The fully detailed reserve fund cash flow table,
Mhm.
that was very, very powerful.
Awesome.
How you zoom in on that?
Pension.
Okay. Pinching makes it go to different pages.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
If you go to the next page. We don't need the front page. Oh, do I just hit next? What do I do?
I don't know.
okay, what enable dictation, not now.
No. Sorry, guys. Can you guys see this online?
Yep, we can see it now.
Yeah.
How do I go to the next page?
There you go. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is another thing that's in your, move your guys' heads over here. This is another thing that's in your status certificate. This is the budget. So I just pulled this from one that we recently did a deal with. So it's very straightforward. So what you want to look at when you're looking at a budget is any major differences. You can also see here is how much are they spending on condominium water, especially if water is included in their condo fees. That's usually a huge expense. So this condo, I think it was actually just switched to sub-metering, so they saved some money on water. But when I look at this, okay, you know what, this is a pretty well managed condominium. So from 2022 to 2023, their annual budget, they made more money because they obviously upped their condo fees. Management fees went up a little bit, their garbage disposal contract went up a little bit higher, but there's nothing that stands out to me where I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? These guys have I think this one has a superintendent unit.
All utilities went up.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah. And what's great about these budgets, guys, is they don't just hand you the budget, they have explanations, oh god. They have explanations, the condo manager will always, because this is a standard document, especially with Wilson Blanchard and Sanderson, because we run off the same template basically, is they will say why things went up, what went down, how we fix this. So reading this is really important to send off to your clients and tell them what's going on. So this one, the reserve fund is to maintain utilized, a healthy reserve fund is one of the corporations, okay, so that's not important. So did they change landscapers? Did they do sub-metering? This is important to find out what's going on with the condo for the next year. Another cool thing which you guys can do, which is just fun, I know you can. Something that you can kind of educate your clients on is. People pay condo fees in different ways, right? There's a set that everyone pays the same condo fee, or there's a proportionate share condo fee. So if one condo is bigger than the other person's condo typically in the building, they pay more of a condo fee. So this one, as you can see, is just set, everyone pays the same condo fees, so typically the units are all the same size. Just something interesting to tell your clients. So this will say the proportionate share, so when things go up, each condo is split up separately.
Is that a choice from the condo board, or is it?
That's just from when it started, from inception. Yeah,
Right, so they'll choose whether or not they want to set.
yeah, or proportionate share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of condo buildings you see that have all different sizes of units, so they're proportionate share. Yeah, so this one's probably a townhouse that they're all the same, Yeah.
Especially if utilities are included,
100%.
it has to be proportionate.
And sometimes the higher you go in levels.
Right. Yeah, does anyone have questions about a budget, or have you seen something interesting on a budget that? So typically, sometimes you'll see like a reserve fund, what do they call it, special fund, they'll make it sound sexy, something fun, it says, we won't have enough money in the reserve fund coming up because we want to switch to asphalt, so we're gonna have a separate contingency fund, or they'll call it something sexy or not, we don't have the money. And you'll see that typically on there as well, which the condo is being managed well, they're preparing. So, you know, it's a good budget is definitely a good, representation of a good board of directors and a good condo management company. Something funny about being a board of directors, being on the board of directors for a condo, there's only 3 requirements. You can't have claimed bankruptcy recently, I think it's the past 5 years. You have to be clinically sane and over 18.
To be a property manager.
To be a board of directors, which the board of directors are the ones that make the decisions, but the condo, it's just like us as agents, right? They're, condo managers is an agency. Nope. You do not have, to. Well, it depends on the declaration, some declarations say you don't have to live in the building, some say you do, most you don't have to.
You need a psychological assessment.
Nope. It's just my popular opinion, I guess. So 18 years old, we say not broke and not crazy. Yeah, that's it. So that's why we see some condo buildings that are just a disaster, because they're just not managed properly, and there's often a lot of, now how do I get this back to my presentation?
You see where it says share, the green button there?
Yeah.
With that, and then pick a different screen you want to go to. There you go.
Oh. Okay, people online, are you good? Can you see this? How do I present this? Slideshow?
Well, over see where it says present, slide comments.
No?
Keep going.
Oh. I'm learning. Oh god. There guys.
Thought you were the Zoom queen.
Yeah, nope. Does anybody know what an indemnity agreement is? Okay.
Board accountable or identify it.
The board of any issues. So when something that's we run into a lot, like a townhouse condo that has a fence. That clearly the homeowner put up and it's not cute on a condo. When your clients buy that condo and it has a fence that's dilapidated or it wasn't approved by the board, that becomes your client's problem. If there's an awning that was installed that was not approved, if there's a satellite dish that was installed that was not approved, that becomes your client's problem. It doesn't get grandfathered in, it's acceptable now, that becomes your client's problem.
So
So,
there's a clause to put in your offer to cover.
yeah, it could have been
Yeah,
from
right.
5 owners ago. But yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can try.
Yeah.
Something that we really like to look at is an indemnity agreement. So if I see a fence when I show up at a condo townhouse that's been put up, or there's all these upgrades, even garden beds sometimes. You wanna check the status certificate and see if the previous owners have ever signed an indemnity agreement, which basically indemnifies the corporation from any lawsuits or any liability if there's something goes wrong with that upgrade or with the common element. So the board of directors is basically giving permission for you to add your fence, to potentially change the grading, putting in garden beds, as long as you indemnify them of any liability. So it just shows basically that they've gotten approval for any of the upgrades that they've done. It's so important to at least communicate to your clients, talk to their lawyer about, hey, I saw an upgraded front door, it looks different than everybody else's. I saw these garden beds, or I saw you guys planted a tree. We gotta look at the status and see if that was approved. And then even making sure we get approval for that, or get something from the board of directors saying, we're good with this change, because you don't want 2 years down the road, or we've seen as soon as they move in. Because the previous owner wouldn't remove the satellite dish, so as soon as the new owners move in, it's the first letter they're getting, is take down your satellite dish. Because previous owners wouldn't do it. So this is so important. Typically what condos will do is every year, anyone that's done an upgrade or done something to the common elements, they'll have everyone go in and they'll actually do it through the lawyers where it's a registered indemnity agreement. So it's that addition or that change to the common elements is registered today.
So it's like a lien on the property.
Yeah, so if you guys, I can read this quickly, so based on the condo act, it requires that unit owner to make the addition, alteration, or improvement. They must get approval from the board of directors, consistent with the provisions of the act and the declaration of condominiums and the subject, so they have to follow the rules, obviously, of their upgrade. So these are not optional conditions. The failure to comply with any of these renders a unit owner's improvement to the common elements illegal. So these can actually be registered with the lawyers, these improvements. So a lot of times, like 50 people will want to do fencing, so everybody will go in and do fencing, and then everybody will go in and pay, say, $1,000 each or $500 each to indemnify the corporation, so they can all have those fences. It's something to really check in the status documents, because no one checks this, and that's one thing that will bite your people. That you're gonna end up having to pay for removing the satellite
So
dish
this
or
would
whatever.
be in your status.
This is in the status. It actually is a status summary document that you get that has all the thing. It will say this person has signed or not signed an indemnity agreement. Something to ask, really important. Anyone have questions about that, indemnity agreements?
So even if they have the approval, to sign this, all that guarantees is that the structure is allowed to be where it is. Something goes wrong, the condo's still not.
100%.
Yep. Even if they've got it in the right position, signed it, it's still not necessarily.
Yeah.
Right, it's reliable.
Yeah, so if they put that satellite dish up and those holes go into the shingles and there's a leak, they're coming for you.
Your problem.
They're coming for you. Yeah. So something, anyone have questions? Yeah, questions with that? No? Oh, so the status summary page, how many people know what that is? So that's the first page, when you get all the information. The status summary page tells you the following: names and addresses of the board of directors. I have knocked on doors before, asked the board how the condo was going on. That's what it is. The property management company, the financial status of the unit, so any common expenses that are owed. I see this so often. Actually, it was funny. One of our statuses I just pulled up from our drive said the unit owed since September of 2023. They owed condo fees. And just, so that's something the lawyer will probably see, but good to know what, situation of what's going on. Special assessment levies, registered liens, special assessment info. Here's a note. The property management company and board has to include that there's even been discussions of a special assessment. If it is minuted in a board of directors meeting with the condo that they're even thinking of a special assessment and it's put in the minutes, it has to go on this summary document. It has to. So that's something that you could always go back on it, where a month after you guys buy the condo, there's a special assessment, but it wasn't in that summary document. I would ask, I want to see the minutes. I want to see the minutes of the meetings, because then I was misled. And you can potentially go through title insurance and get that dealt with. So it has to be in there. That was a huge rule that we had to follow as property managers. If it was in the minutes, it had to go on that summary document that there could potentially be a special assessment coming out. Most recent reserve fund study, financial information. Are there any loans? When were the last audited financials completed? Legal claims and procedures, we see a lot of, someone slipped and fell on the ice and they're taking the condo to court. See a lot more of that now, so definitely keep an eye on that, cause that comes out of the operating account if someone has to get paid out, right? If the unit has the indemnity agreement and the number of leased units, this is a big one. Is your client planning on leasing? Is 90% of the building leased? Do they want that? You know, we see a lot of the Waterloo condos by the university, 90% are leased units. Are your people okay with that? That's really, really important. I don't know if I have another 10th thing there because I can't see. Any questions about the status summary page?
How often is this updated? So if you got your status certificate and they have to update if there's any conversation about special assessment, is that done like even if it was a week before? A month before?
Yeah, so
3 months
condo,
before?
yeah, condo meetings are held typically every month with board of directors. But yeah, it can be hard because some boards meet every 3 months, some meet every 4 months. So it's just as needed. Yeah, so when they do the summary page, the project manager knows in the last meeting they talked about it. But yeah,
It's, may not be super up to date.
yeah, so ask questions. Definitely ask questions. Yeah, especially if you see like, you don't see in the reserve fund that there's any major replacements happening, like on the cash flows table, but you clearly can see that things are falling apart of the building. There's something not adding up. So just ask questions and don't be afraid to rip things open. Any other questions about that? No? Cool. This I already said before, but okay, this is not a thing, but insurance providers, they don't want you to know this, but some provide these special assessment insurance. Another thing that's cool, the Condominium Authority of Ontario just came out with a condo buying guide. So I put the QR code up there. If you guys want to steal it, I would save it to your desktop. What a great thing on a buyer presentation that you're providing. Hey, I know you guys want to buy a condo. Read this, make sure you're fully up to date on what buying a condo really looks like, because a lot of people don't realize what they're actually getting into. So scan that and I would just save it and make sure that you're adding that to your buyer presentation or to any clients, or that are even selling. They can provide that to the potential buyers. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions? I know we talked a little about special assessments you wanted to get some info, Hannah, about. Most condos will either give you a lump sum special assessment or they'll put it into payments. But if your clients have insurance, then they should be fine. But always, if your clients are being special assessed for a large number, to ask for monthly payments. Nobody wants to be kicking someone out of a condo out of their home because they can't pay the special assessment. So, but if you're diligent, you ask the questions and you should be able to protect your client from some, as well as the lawyer, protect your clients from some, some pain and headaches. Did I cover that? Yeah,
That's really
great.
good.
You got your question answered? Good. They don't have any questions, ahas or anything, or questions about a condo that they recently dealt with? Or did I just lost?
If there is an existing special assessment that has a good job, what pays would that be on? Summary?
Yep. And you can, that's workable, like the client can pay that. The seller can pay that upon closing, or you can assume that, you can assume the special assessment, it's just all what you put in the agreements, and definitely make sure you run that by the lawyer and make sure. When there's any, existing special assessments.
Do you have a page of common questions to make our lives a bit easier? Of just like, when you're speaking with the property manager, these are questions that you're gonna want to ask as a realtor,
Yeah,
just to protect your client.
no, but that's a good idea. I'm gonna talk to Melody about that. Something that might be included is that buyer guide. That condominium authority buyer guide, it might have some questions to ask, but that's a good idea. I'll talk to Melody about that. I was like, these are the things.
Just sounds like a resource.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Thank you. Anything else? Did I just cover everything? If you have questions about a status certificate and the lawyer is taking a little bit too long, or you just need clarity on one of these documents, just call me. I have no problem going over it a little bit fine tooth comb with you, just to speed things, because I was on the other side of it. So if you guys ever need anything with the status, I'd rather help you than you come back after the fact and there's a big problem. Because like I said, they can have you remove your dog in 14 days if you're not careful. So yeah, so that's all.